Welcome to Lifing 101, a journey through life's experiences, challenges, and interpretations. An intriguing and soul-refining podcast that explores the countless twists of life. Get ready to be amused, enlightened, entertained, empowered, and inspired. Hosted by Tina C. Christian, your MC with the LPC, and guest co-host Lorenda McKinney, your MC with the PhD.
Welcome, lovely listeners, to an exciting episode of Lifing 101 podcast,
where we dive into life's little mysteries and offer you insights to help you lead a happier, more fulfilling life.
I'm your MC with the LPC, Tina C. Christian, navigating y'all through this journey up and down and all around on this emotional roller coaster we call life.
And I'm your MC with the PhD, Lorenda McKinney. So grab your favorite beverage, find a comfortable spot, sit back and relax while we embark on this restorative journey together.
Good morning, afternoon, or evening out there. So today we have a great topic for you guys, or at least we think it is. It actually came from one of our Pot of Soul listeners. And so today we're going to talk about revealing the invisible walls and deciphering hidden trauma barriers. So basically, people dealing with traumas that they're unaware of. So, Doc, what are some things that people do or some behaviors that people have that you can think of when they're actually going through some trauma things, but they're really not aware of?
Okay. So first I want to say April is Stress Awareness Month. Awesome. So remember, when we're discussing these things, just remember to kind of check yourself and see where you are mentally and make sure you're taking care of yourself every month. But make sure you put emphasis on April because it is Stress Awareness Month and we all can think of a million things that have us a little stressed out and on the edge.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. That's so true. Thank you.
So the one of the behaviors I think that people probably show off or put on display when they're dealing with trauma, either known or unknown, is probably the defense mechanism. Mm-hmm. And what that is basically you've built yourself a system where you'll do anything not to have to deal with things. So you kind of protect yourself from pain or things that cause distress in the future, from things that cause pain and distress in the past. So it's like you keep yourself from repeating the same thing, but it's not healthy for you because you're not dealing with it and confronting it. Right. You're just kind of masking it.
Exactly.
Yeah. You're putting a Band-Aid on there, and a very temporary one, because it's not going to last forever. And part of doing this is probably just to make sure you don't have to be vulnerable and share what's really going on. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's probably one of the easy ones, and defense mechanisms are used a lot for a lot of situations.
Right. We all have them. We all use them probably every day to avoid other situations and things. So yeah, definitely.
Right. You come up with ways to go, well, I'm not going to deal with that or think about it. So I'm just going to do this, this, and this. Mm-hmm. That'll keep me from dealing with it and thinking about it.
Right. Avoidance and or even ways just to cope with stuff. So, I mean, like you said, we all use defense mechanisms, but we're speaking in regarding to trauma and unidentified or trauma or that you don't even realize that you have. Right. Because a lot of people don't realize the trauma that they have until they're triggered or something. And so that's what I wanted to talk about, subconscious triggers. Say, for instance, I was in the kitchen one day and I was fixing me something to eat and somebody mentioned something to me and I was like, oh my God, no, don't say that. Mm-hmm. And then at that point, I realized that that was a trigger for me. Yeah. So sometimes we don't even realize that subconsciously we have things that trigger us that make us feel a certain kind of way or bring on a certain emotion. And so these things are buried down in your subconscious. So you're not even aware of it. But if you ever find yourself responding to something that you may feel like was out of character or maybe abnormal or overreacting or something, that may be because something actually triggered you. Or say, for instance, something like someone, maybe they've been raped or molested or something, and someone comes up and basically just touched them on their shoulder and they're affected in a negative way. And people are like, oh my God, I didn't do anything but just touch them. Well, subconsciously, maybe that was a trigger for them. They may not even understand why they responded that way, but because of something that happened to them, they don't want to be touched. Right. Or maybe a scent. Maybe someone is triggered by a scent and they may not even understand why, but maybe their offender or something had on a certain cologne or perfume or something. So when they smell that, that's a trigger for them. Right. And so subconsciously, people have triggers that they're not even aware of, things that they can't even understand why they're feeling the way that they are. They may be crying, they may be shaking, they may be responding in an abnormal way or an emotional way and trying to figure out like, why the hell am I acting like this? Or you may even be wondering like, why the hell did they overreact like that? But that just causes people to unknowingly just basically react in a certain way because they don't even know, they can't connect the source of
and they don't even have time to stop it because it just happens so quick. One thing happens, it's a dominoes effect almost. Correct. One thing happens, it causes this to happen. And before you know it, it's happening. Yeah.
So subconscious triggers that people may have, and they invoke basically an intense emotion. So it's like not just, a little mild, like really like something like startling or like sounds like people that have PTSD or something and you slam a car door or you slam a door or a car backfires or something, they, respond very startled because they don't even understand. They can't put a word with it or something because they don't realize definitely those are subconscious triggers that people have due to traumas that they're not even aware of sometimes.
And that's interesting you said that about the touch because, of course, I'm about to go to a TV show. But I think it's Meet the Browns. I think it's Meet the Browns. But the little girl that they are trying to adopt, it was a guy there and he told her he liked her and he touched her and told her he liked her. And it immediately triggered her and she told him to get out and leave. So after he left, Will and Sasha was like, we really like him. And she told them, he likes me too. But she was triggered because of being molested, I think, when she lived with her mom. And it literally triggered her. And before she knew it, it seemed like being liked and being touched on the shoulder was a terrible thing, which it may not be for somebody else, but it was for her.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Depending on past traumas and or experiences, people will tend to react to certain things in a certain way. And 9 times out of 10, they don't even understand or know why. Some people do learn through counseling or therapy or over time when they start to question their own behaviors. Why am I acting this way? But yeah, triggers, sometimes they're very subconscious, So definitely. What's some other things that you can think of or you want to discuss in regarding to past traumas or trying to decipher hidden traumas that we have?
Right. I would say self-protective behaviors, which can also be looked at as defense mechanisms because it's a way to keep what you think you're keeping yourself safe from things happening that may have happened in the past. Those behaviors can include emotional guardedness, secrecy, or reluctance to open up about personal experiences or feelings. So you are real standoffish. You don't want anybody to know certain things about you because then it makes you vulnerable and it opens you up to possibly be hurt again. So you think that you're protecting yourself, but you're also causing yourself not to live a full life because with protection comes not letting yourself live and not giving yourself the freedom to live. So it's a lot. Self-protective behaviors is a lot like defense mechanism. You're not being true to yourself, basically.
I was about to say that very much so. Defense mechanisms are self-protective behaviors. You're basically trying to protect yourself, but you could be causing more harm to yourself from, like, say, for instance, the isolation. If you're trying to keep yourself away from certain things, places, or people because of past traumas, then you call yourself protecting yourself, and then you're isolating yourself, like people with certain phobias or something. They're afraid to go out of the house or something. So, yeah, you're isolating yourself now.
Right. And you may be cheating yourself a little bit because you may be protecting yourself from somebody that could be really helpful to you and could help you solve some of those issues. But because you want to make sure you don't get hurt again or have to open up, you are standoffish.
Definitely. That's a good point as well. Something else that I can think of is dissociation. That's also one of those coping mechanisms that people have from trauma. So basically, within the person themselves, they kind of disconnect from their thoughts and their feelings and or surroundings, people, places, things that may relate to those traumas. So basically, dissociation is detachment, basically. And it just really, it prevents individuals from fully engaging with others, with experiences or relationships, because again, they don't want to deal with it. And when I think of like dissociation, I think of like, or probably the most common known type of dissociation that people will know and kind of be aware of is like multiple personalities.
Right.
When people have multiple personalities, which is now called DID, dissociative identity disorder.
Because when you said did, I was like, well, did he do it or did the other person do it? So that's what I was thinking.
So did is basically the acronym for it, but it's basically people that have such painful traumas and or memories or things that have happened in their lives or experiences where they'd rather dissociate from it. So to take on other identities and things, or if you have someone, say for instance, when they're going through some sort of traumatic experience, like I've heard rape victims say that when their attacker or offender is on them, they go to a different place in their mind because they're trying to dissociate from what's going on right then and there. So a lot of times people that, have traumas, they probably dissociated so much that they're kind of suppressing basically those emotions and feelings and experiences because they're so painful. So that's one way that people are basically hiding their traumas and or may not even be aware of because they've dissociated from that experience. So that's another thing that happens when people have hidden traumas. Anything else that you can think of in regarding to things that people may be doing to either hide their traumas or to even deal with or cope with the traumas that they're maybe even unaware that they have?
Right. I'm going to say normalizing dysfunction. And normalizing dysfunction comes up so much. And then sometimes you'll look at a person and not understand why they seem like they thrive in chaos, but don't thrive in order and structure.
Right.
And it's because you do your best in situations where you're comfortable. If I was raised in a household where it was always abuse, it was always chaos, that's my comfort. Like, I know that. I know how to function in that space.
Right.
So I may tend to thrive in that where somebody else would be like, oh my God, I can't take it here. So normalizing dysfunction, I always say, and this is kind of totally off the subject, but kind of is, but I always say, or when we're sitting around talking and we're talking about dating, we always laugh about when it seems like guys like to date the girls that are full of drama and always got something going on. But maybe that's all they know. Yeah. So then the good girls or the girls that are a lot more calm are known as boring because they're not given that drama that they're used to. So you never understand it because you're like, oh, I'm a good girl. I'm not understanding this. But people go with what they're familiar with and what's going to give them peace, because whether it gives you peace or not, it gives them peace because it makes them feel comfortable.
Right. And when you stated that, I started thinking about how the generational normalization of dysfunction or generational dysfunction continues, because that can go the other way as well, like with women, and how you've heard of people being in abusive relationships and their parents and or grandparents or, girl, he's a good man and he paid a business, because they normalize it. It's like, so what if he beat the hell out of you? You know, he took care of you. He's a good
paid
man.
all those bills.
Right. He's a good man.
Right.
But that's what they were taught and or know, and that's the norm for them because that was the background and the environment that they grew up in. And as I always say, you're a product of your environment. So if dysfunction was and is or your environment, then yes, you're used to that. That's the known, the familiar. So you think it's okay. And that's why I always encourage people in relationships not to do that. And it's better to split and don't stay for kids. We were just talking about that because when you do that, you normalize that dysfunction for that child and or those family members, and they grow up thinking that this is a normal, when actually it's very dysfunctional. And it's the abnormal, but that's all they know. So definitely if you grow up and you find a man that's, going to take care of you, oh, that's wonderful. It doesn't matter that he beat the crap out of you because it's normal for that to happen.
Right. And what you don't realize is you just contributed to a cycle.
Yes.
Because now you stayed together for the kids. Instead of having two healthy homes, you made one dysfunctional one. The kids are in it. And trust me, kids know more than you ever know. And you may not even find out until later when they're grown that they notice way more than you thought they did.
Yes, definitely.
And so you're creating a cycle because now they live through it. Now it's their normal. And then they're going to go on and they're going to continue to think it's normal. And then their kids will deal with it. And it's just a cycle. So you're better off bringing peace. And when I say peace, I mean, when people are saying they stay together for kids, are you really? Because really kids need healthy. So really you should separate for the kids. I think people need to normalize knowing that two households that are peaceful is better than one that's chaos.
Definitely. So definitely if people are out there normalizing dysfunction, then more than likely they have some hidden traumas themselves that they're unaware of, because they may have thought that being in a household full of domestic violence was normal.
Right.
Or being in a household where you have children that are disrespectful to the parents or whatever is normal. So then they may allow their children to do the same thing. So the cycle usually continues. Or if you have people that are molesting the children, or something like that, then you have a mother that may have allowed her spouse or boyfriend or someone else to molest her child because she thought that shit was normal. So we are, again, a product of our environments and the things that we've experienced. So we have to break the cycle. And I really, truly believe that when people have hidden traumas, and if and when they learn of those and they're triggered, they really need to deal with that because it can really be harmful for them and the people around them.
Yeah, and that's why I say you have to confront it. You cannot, it's only so long that these things that you're doing that we're talking about is going to work.
Right.
So it's only so long before they start causing major disasters in your life, because you got to keep in mind, everybody is not willing to be there while you heal or while you try to figure it out and identify what your issues are. So it's better off to confront it, talk to somebody so that you can be that healthy person, not for whoever else benefits from it, but for you yourself.
That's true. So we just talked about like how people can normalize dysfunction because of past traumas or hidden traumas. But then there's also like implicit beliefs. With the implicit beliefs, you have people that they may think that, or they may believe or perceive that relationships are unsafe or untrustworthy because of things that have happened or whatever in the past, but they could be healthy relationships. So it's the opposite. And it really does influence people's behaviors without them fully realizing how it's impacting their relationships and things with others, because they have these basically unhealthy beliefs about certain situations because of past traumas or things like that.
Right. Is it a little like self-sabotage kind of?
Probably. Yeah. Definitely. I would have to say definitely, because like, say for instance, they don't want to experience things because maybe those traumas within them, they're thinking like
they don't deserve it, or they
don't deserve it, or the hypotheticals.
Yeah.
It could be. When I always tell people, like, when people get hurt in relationships and they're like, I'm never going to love again. I'm never going to have another relationship, whatever. I'm like, you have to make yourself vulnerable to have and be able to have a relationship and accept love and everything. So just because one relationship or one person did something to you doesn't mean that every person or every relationship is going to be like that. But because of that trauma or whatever you may have had, you have these beliefs that all relationships may be like this, or all people are going to be like that. So you become very untrusting, and you don't want to have a relationship with anybody. You become very untrusting about it.
The reason why I said self-sabotage, it's almost like you're going to make sure it doesn't happen. Because if you notice something going, if you notice something going good, oh God, what can I do to screw this up? So you're just constantly doing that instead of
waiting on the other shoe to fall. Thinking like, oh, well, it's too good to be true.
Yeah, so you can't enjoy it.
I'm not going to allow this to happen. Yeah. And things like that. So definitely those type of implicit behaviors really does harm to those that have traumas because they don't realize they're talking themselves out of or working themselves out of good, trustworthy relationships with people, not just in a romantic relationship, but also in friendships. Yeah. Because they could have had traumas that happened with people that they trust. Say, for instance, like a parent. You believe that your parents should be the person that's going to protect you no matter what. And if you've had a bad relationship with your parent, then how can you trust other people? In their mind, people are untrustworthy. Right. That's the core belief and the implicit belief that they have now. It's like, people are not trustworthy. I can't even trust my mom. Yeah. How the hell am I going to trust someone else?
Right. Because you feel like that's the person out of everybody that you should have been able to trust. And if you couldn't trust them, then how are you going to trust someone else? But that's one of the things they say, that people always assume that people are only healing from romantic relationships. Oh, yeah, no. And there's so much more. There's friendships, there's cousinships, it's your parents. Yeah, it's co-workers. People are just trying to heal from stuff. And actually, I give it to them that they're aware of it and trying to heal from it instead of acting like it didn't affect them enough to address it.
Yeah. And the fact that you said that, like I was talking about earlier, I've realized some triggers that I had from work trauma. Right. And work relationships. So it's not just romantic relationships. It can be sibling relationships, parents, whoever.
Yeah. People that you thought you could trust or meant something to you, and it turned out totally opposite.
Correct. We've covered quite a few of them that I feel like, what was it, defense mechanisms, subconscious triggers, dissociation, implicit beliefs, self-protective behaviors, and normalizing of dysfunction. One last one that we kind of touched on, but I want to kind of go a little more into is repression and suppression. So with traumatic experiences, they become overwhelming and very distressing, as we know. Anytime you have trauma, it's heightened your emotional senses and things like that. So, but it leads individuals to want to repress and suppress those memories, like we kind of talked about with dissociation. People may not even know that they had these traumas and on the conscious level. So we're talking about, like, that's why we were talking about these hidden traumas, because they buried them down so deep, because they were so painful that they've disconnected their own emotions and experiences, and they're trying to protect themselves again from this trauma that have happened in their life. But again, they don't even realize they're suppressed that far. And I'll be very transparent and say that I'm constantly wondering, like, I keep seeing myself as a little girl running through this neighborhood, and it's like it pops up in my head all the time. And I'm like, what is there? What is there? Is it like a suppressed type of trauma or something? Because it just keeps coming back like a flashback. Nothing else is coming from it, but that's just like something that's always, in my mind, like, what is that? Why do I keep seeing
what
myself?
am I supposed to pull from this?
Yeah. And so sometimes people have gone through something, and I wonder all the time, did I go through something? I do remember falling off of a damn swing and busting my head in that same neighborhood, but I'm like, is it associated with that trauma?
So maybe that's the problem. Your ass was running through the neighborhood. You done got on a swing that your mama told you don't get on. And now you're trying to figure that out.
So that's why I'm like, but I don't know. But sometimes we do have some traumas that we've had that are so painful that we refuse to even think about it, or we don't want to. We've protected it real well. Real well. And I think back to, like, after my father had got murdered, I have a blank, like a year in my life.
Yeah.
I can't, I'm 50 something. I don't even remember, y'all, but I'm 50 some years old, and
y'all see how she's suppressing her age?
It happened when I was 7, and that I can't recall that year. I can think of years before and years after. So it's like, it was very painful for me because it took me so many years to deal with it. So I can honestly say it was very, very traumatic. It was one of those situations where I'm actually there.
Yeah.
So it was very traumatic for me. So I have suppressed or repressed a whole damn year.
Yeah.
So I can understand from that a personal experience how that can be something that you do, because evidently that year must have been painful as hell for me, because I can't recall it at all.
Right. You were in just survival mode, just going through the motions.
I was just kind of probably in shock. And so when people go into shock and stuff like that, they may suppress feelings. So I do feel like people do have a lot of hidden traumas that they are getting triggered by, and sometimes they don't even understand or realize why.
Right.
But if you're noticing, again, I just want to say, if you're noticing certain situations where you're having these intense emotions in regarding to certain events, people, places, or things, sounds, smells, then you may be actually going through some trauma triggers that you're unaware of. And I'd encourage you to kind of look into that, maybe seek into trying to talk to someone. I know people, they go through like hypnosis and things like that to try to recall memories, but some memory recall work with a therapist or something, if you feel like it's something that you can deal with, because all trauma work is going to be kind of painful. It's kind of like that onion. I used to tell people, it's like, if you're like me, I love onions, but when you're trying to cut it and peel it and stuff, you're crying, but you got to get through that layer and cut it. And once you cook it all up, it's very good. So that's the same thing. Like, if you're going to have to go through some of these trauma works to actually feel better and deal with some stuff that's going on. But if you notice that you're having these abnormal or overly intense emotions or responses to things, and people may even tell you, well, why are you overreacting? Or if you find that people are telling you overreacting in certain situations or something like that, then you may definitely want to kind of inquire and try to see if you can figure out what's going on. But again, if you buried them very deep like I have, and it's been over 40 years and I still can't pull this one up. So, and maybe it's for the best, you know? So I don't know. But anyway, in regarding to trauma, you got any gems gems you want to share with the people today, Doc?
Yeah, I always have a gem, and I have one for this topic because I think that this is very, very important. And I want to say, first of all, you want to seek help for your own self, but it's almost unfair to present yourself to other people and enter other people's lives before you address it, because trust me, then it causes pain for you and them. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's important if these things are a problem and maybe you're not sure, but you think it could be, it's important to address it, because otherwise it's pretty unfair. And like the self-sabotage, or you've been through things and you pretty much are emotional, you're numb. Mm-hmm. So it takes a lot to get to you, but you think that's probably a good thing or whatever. You really need to see what's going on so that you can address it, because like I said, for one, you're cheating yourself out of a healthy life, mm-hmm. but anybody you come into contact with, you're also cheating them out of that full life if you can't give them everything that you have.
Right. Because like they say, hurt people.
Yeah.
So if you're really damaged and you know it and you're going through something, then you probably want to fix yourself before you even have any other relationships, and not just romantic, because
right.
some people that have those traumas, they don't even know how to have healthy relationships.
Right.
So if you have some hidden traumas that you believe are hidden, or responses to hidden traumas that you believe, then by all means, please try to work on that and work on yourself so that you can have a more fulfilling life for yourself, but also so that you can have healthy relationships with other people.
Definitely.
Whether it's at work or at home or at school, church, romantic relationship with your kids, or be able to be a healthy parent, a healthy sister, healthy daughter. You want to be a healthy person, and have complete, total well-being overall.
Right.
So definitely. So your gem, Doc, you said you have something for us.
And just real quick, when Tina said hurt people, I've heard people saying that people bleed all over them even though they're not the one that cut them. Mm-hmm. So it's like, just make sure that the people in your life are not suffering when they had nothing to do with whatever your past trauma is. So just be fair to yourself, be fair to people you come in contact with.
And break the cycle.
Right. And for this sparkly gem I have for you. So make sure that you have on your eclipse glasses for this one, honey.
Oh,
when all you know is fight or flight, red flags and butterflies all feel the same. That's by Miss Cindy Sherry.
That's true. When I was thinking of gems you always share, I did find one I wanted to share as well, and regarding to the topic. So I was like, that's so appropriate for me, because this one is by Curlin Spring. And in regarding to being a mental health professional, I felt like this one was appropriate. So the quote says, "I have met many, many severely distressed people whose daily lives are filled with the agony of both remembered and unremembered trauma, who try so hard to heal and yet who are constantly being pushed down by their symptoms and the oppressive circumstances of post-traumatic life around them." I felt like that was a good one, because that's exactly what we're talking about. People are constantly being oppressed by the circumstances of their post-traumatic lives and things around them. So again, you guys, if you're experiencing any type of intense emotions from traumatic experiences, then by all means, please, as we always say, seek some professional help. And I know people probably get tired of us shoving that down their throat, but that is really important. And like I said, people always think of healthcare as physical healthcare, but don't forget to get your mental health checkup from the neck up, because your brain and your mind is very important to your physical health. And without your mind and your brain, I mean, how are you going to even function? Yeah. So definitely remember to get your mental health checkup from the neck up, people. So until next time, stay hopeful and stay curious.
Before we part ways, we invite you to share your own stories, thoughts, and reflections with us. Connect with us on social media, reach out through our website, or simply leave a comment on your preferred podcast platform. Feel free to leave us in voicemail at 816-607-1243 with any thoughts, concerns, or questions that you'd like shared on Lifing 101, or just answered or addressed. If you prefer to send us an email, feel free to do so by sending it to our website, lifing101pod.com, or send us an email to info@lifing101pod.com. Your insights and experiences enrich our shared understanding of this incredible journey we're all a part of. Please subscribe to this podcast and follow our website, lifing101pod.com, and find and follow us on your favorite social media platforms. Stay hopeful, stay curious, and keep embracing the vibrant, unpredictable, and awe-inspiring journey that we call life. Goodbye for now, and may your days be filled with endless wonder.